If you've ever wondered whether your pelvic pain, heavy periods, bloating, or fertility struggles may be due to endo, fibroids, PCOS, or ovarian cysts, there's a simple test that you need to ask your doctor for that you should know about. So many of us have experienced some form of medical gaslighting. We go to our doctors presenting with our symptoms and they say, oh, it's all in your head, or it's just because you're a woman, or it's normal. That can be so frustrating. So that's why when we go to our doctors, we need to be talking their language. When we ask for something specific, like a particular test, their ears perk up, they start listening, and they start to take us more seriously. They may even be surprised that you even know of this test and are asking specifically for it. And that often makes them sit up and start paying closer attention to your concerns. The test that I'm talking about, that I believe every woman should be asking for if you have pain, heavy periods, or fertility struggles, is a simple blood test. Write the name down. It is called a CA125 test. You need to be asking for this test if you have any of the following symptoms: pelvic pain or persistent pelvic pressure, heavy or irregular bleeding, bloating that doesn't go away, a family history of endometriosis, adenomyosis, fibroids, PCOS, or ovarian cancer, or any symptoms of any of those conditions. Now, the history of this CA125 test is that doctors used to use it as a way to detect and track ovarian cancer because they've noticed that CA125 is often higher in women with ovarian cancer. But later they realized that CA125 can actually be elevated in women with non-cancerous conditions such as endo, adenomyosis, fibroids, ovarian cysts, pelvic inflammatory disease, or sometimes PCOS if you have larger cysts or a ruptured cyst or ongoing pelvic inflammation. It's not a test that diagnoses these conditions, but rather it's more of an indication or a marker that there is something going on in your pelvic area that warrants further urgent investigation. In other words, it tells your doctor that your symptoms aren't just all in your head. So in this video, we're going to talk about what exactly CA125 is, why it can be raised in conditions such as endo, fibroids, and ovarian cysts, and how asking for it can help you get the medical attention and care that you deserve. Okay, so what exactly is CA125? Well, the first thing to know is that it is not a hormone. We talk a lot about hormones on this channel, but CA125 is not one of those. It's actually a protein that is often found on the surface of ovarian cancer cells, but don't let that scare you because it is also found on the surface of normal cells, such as our uterine lining, our ovaries, and the thin protective layer that lines the inside of our belly. Now, normally, there's only really a small amount of this CA125 protein that leaks into our bloodstream, but when the tissues of our uterus or our ovaries become inflamed or irritated or overgrown, as can happen with endo, adenomyosis, fibroids, ovarian cysts, etc., those tissues release more CA125 into our blood. And so that's why if we have fibroids, endo, ovarian cysts, etc., we may have more or higher levels of this protein in our blood than women who don't have these conditions. Fibroids can raise our CA125 levels if they irritate the lining of our uterus. If we have endo or adenomyosis, those extra tissues that are growing, they trigger chronic inflammation, which can further raise our CA125 levels. And CA125 levels also spike if we have ovarian cysts, whether those are down to PCOS or chocolate cysts due to endometriosis. If a large cyst bursts, or if we have ongoing inflammation in our ovaries or in the pelvic region, that can further spike our CA125 levels. And something that surprised me at first, but actually it makes a lot of sense, is that our CA125 levels also increase whilst we're on our period. And this is because whilst our uterus is shedding, whilst the lining is shedding, it's releasing more of that protein into our bloodstream. So there are quite a few reasons why our levels of this protein may be high. It can also be high during pregnancy, if we've had recent pelvic surgery or like pelvic infections. Can barely get my words out. So that's why your doctor ideally would use this blood test in conjunction with other things, i.e. ultrasound or MRI scan, symptoms that you're having and what day of your cycle you have your blood test on. So at this point, remember two things. One is that the CA125 blood test doesn't diagnose any specific condition. It's more of a marker that there's some irritation and or inflammation in your ovaries, in your womb, in your pelvic area that your doctor needs to look into further. And then number two is that having high levels of this protein does not mean that you have ovarian cancer. There are many more things that your doctor will test for if they are looking for ovarian cancer. So try not to let this worry you, and there are so many reasons why your levels of this protein may be elevated. So let's talk about why testing for this protein is so important. In my view, it literally comes down to the fact that so many of us have experienced medical gaslighting, where our doctors simply dismiss our concerns, they don't believe us, or they misdiagnose or underdiagnose us. You may have struggled for years with your symptoms and have gotten literally no answers from your doctor or your gynecologist. My experience of this test is that it provides you and your doctor with an objective sign that you have pelvic inflammation or that there's some kind of irritation or something going on down there. And it's quite hard to argue with like test results that are right in front of you. It's clear, evidence-based blood test results that support how you've been feeling, and it can be the push that your doctor needs to take you seriously and to investigate your health further. And having this particular blood test was actually one of the first steps in my own endo diagnosis journey. So when I got my test results back, my CA125 levels were showing at 99 units per milliliter. Now, bear in mind that the normal or reference range is usually around the 35 units per milliliter mark. So 99 was definitely really high. Overall, it only took about 3 months for me to get my endo diagnosis, between the time of me first going to my GP with my concerns and symptoms and then me receiving a letter confirming that I had stage 4 endometriosis. I honestly believe that having that blood test done early in my journey was the reason why I wasn't dismissed or gaslit by my doctors and why they took my concerns seriously. Now compare that to the 7 to 8 years that it still takes women on average to receive an endo diagnosis because their symptoms are usually brushed aside or misdiagnosed for something else. Also compare that to the years that it still takes women to receive a diagnosis for fibroids or the 2 years on average that it takes for us to receive a PCOS diagnosis. Such long waiting times can not only be heartbreaking, but it can also be detrimental to our health and our fertility outcomes. So doing this blood test can truly be the thing that prompts your doctor to take you seriously and to refer you for an ultrasound or an MRI or even for surgery if that's what you need. And even if you have your diagnosis already, continuing to do this test over time can actually help you and your doctor see how your health is improving or changing over time, especially if you have ongoing flare-ups or if you have surgery. So let's talk about what the numbers actually mean, because I've mentioned that my own levels prior to my endosurgery, so when I got diagnosed, were 99 units per milliliter. And then I've also mentioned that the normal or reference range is around the 35 mark. But let's talk about what the numbers mean. If your levels are mildly high, say in the 40s or 50s, you may be on your period. So again, try not to have this blood test done whilst you are on your period. But it can also be a sign that there is some inflammation or irritation happening in your pelvic region. So that is something, at least in my view, that raises some concern. And then if your levels are higher, say in the 80s, the 90s, the 100s, higher, that is considered high. And they're usually seen in women who have fibroids, endometriosis, adenomyosis, ovarian cysts, ovarian cancer, if the numbers are even higher. So that is something that definitely should be looked into. But here's the key. Your doctor would usually like to track your number over time as opposed to getting worried about your number at a specific single point in time. So again, it's important that we continue to have these blood tests and not just do it as a one-off event, because the numbers change over time and we need to see how your numbers are tracking. If your numbers remain high, then your doctor definitely should be following up with further investigations just to find out what is going on there. So I asked my doctor, like, what can I do to lower my CA125 levels? And unfortunately, there isn't like a magic pill or like something specific that we can do that will directly lower our levels of this protein. But because I'm all about holistic health, I obviously put my holistic health hat on here, and I like to look at things that we can do that to support our health overall, that can bring down the numbers indirectly and ultimately support our bodies if we have conditions like endo, fibroids, PCOS, etc. In my view, it really comes down to addressing that underlying inflammation that is often behind endo, adenomyosis, all of these conditions, and also just supporting the overall health of our pelvic region. In other words, how we care for the overall health of our body can influence the chronic inflammation that is behind a lot of these things and that drives those numbers up. So one thing that we can do is we can focus on balancing our blood sugar. So that partially looks like eating meals that are balanced with proteins, healthy fats, carbohydrates as opposed to refined carbohydrates, the timing of when we eat, after we wake up and what we do after we eat, i.e. it's best to try and eat within an hour or so of waking up, and going for walks after meals to try and bring down our blood sugar. All of these things help reduce insulin spikes, which is linked to inflammation and hormonal imbalances. So blood sugar is one thing to focus on. The second thing that we can do is eating more anti-inflammatory foods. So making sure that our plate is colourful. We're eating lots of fruits and veg that are rich in omega-3s, such as nuts and seeds, oily fishes. We're eating herbs and spices like turmeric and ginger. These all help calm a lot of that ongoing inflammation in our pelvis. A third thing we can do is prioritizing getting enough sleep and getting quality sleep as well. We should be aiming for around 7 to 8 hours of sleep at least, more when we're on our period. This will allow our body to be able to repair itself and gives it the opportunity to balance our hormones that are often linked to pain and inflammation. A fourth thing that we can do is trying to regulate stress. I know it's near impossible to avoid stress, but when we encounter stress, we can try and help our body to regulate its stress response. And the method that I really like to use at the moment is breath work. And please don't be put off by the name of breathwork. I know it sounds like ultra spiritual, like new agey, but ultimately it's just intentional breathing. And as opposed to emptying our minds, it's focusing on our breathing and breathing in a way that supports oxygen and how it circulates in and out of our body, and that supports our nervous system, that calms and relaxes it, and that helps support hormone regulation as well. So there are so many different types of breath work we can do. Very simple box breathing, or sometimes we can inhale and then exhale for longer, add certain pauses to it. I'll go into details of breath work definitely in future videos, because that is something that I'm actually studying for part-time as well. But focusing on our breathing and just calming our nervous system in that way really supports our body return to a state of calm and ultimately reduce a lot of that inflammation and chronic stress that is fueling a lot of these conditions that we are experiencing. So find ways to manage your stress and regulate it to calm your body and mind back down and help it return to a state of balance. That is not only great for our mental health, but also our physical health, our reproductive health as well. And then another thing that we can do is supporting our gut and liver health. Kidney health is related to this, but let's try and keep it a bit simple here. So gut and liver health. So this is all about eating more fiber, staying hydrated, reducing or avoiding alcohol and ultra processed foods. This all helps our body process and eliminate extra hormones, things that are fueling inflammation and a lot of these chronic conditions. And just know that as you start to incorporate a lot of these things into your day-to-day living, it's not going to change your blood test results instantly or automatically. These things often take time, but they are helping to create a healthier internal environment, reduce inflammation, and a lot of the things that are behind the chronic illnesses that so many of us are experiencing. So don't give up just after a few days or a few weeks. Make these things a habit and a lifestyle, and do them for your overall health, because they benefit not only our reproductive health, our fertility, our conditions, but also our health and well-being in general. So I hope this video has helped you feel more confident going to your doctor and asking for the things that you need. And if you're looking for more guidance on how to support your body as it navigates endometriosis, fibroids, adenomyosis, PCOS, whatever you are experiencing, make sure to check out the other videos on my channel, because this is all we talk about here. And if you've had enough of learning and are ready to start implementing a lot of this knowledge that you're attaining, then make sure that you join the Hormone Sisterhood. It's a group membership and one-to-one coaching focused on turning education into action, building daily, weekly, and monthly habits that help to reduce inflammation, reduce chronic stress, improve our immune system, our gut health, our sleep, and all of the things that are crucial to supporting our hormonal health. I'll leave a link to the sisterhood in a pinned comment down below, and I'll also drop it in the description box as well, so that you can join our wait list, or if you are watching this video in the future, so you can actually join us and start tackling your health using a root cause approach. So let me know if you have any questions from this video. I know we covered a lot here, but this blood test is so important to talk about because not many people talk about this, and it helps us have more confidence when we approach our doctor and get them taking our concerns seriously. So let me know if and when you speak to your doctor, when you request this blood test, let me know what they say. Let me know how your test results are as well, and subscribe for more videos like this as we support each other on our hormone health journeys. Thank you so much for being here. Truly appreciate you, and I will see you in the next one.